Welcome, everybody, to the next edition of the Purple Knights podcast. Um, Today I'm joined by Richard Cole, um, host of the Amari Purple Talk podcast. And thank you for being here, Richard.
All right. Thank you for having me on, Chris.
Um, your podcast is very in depth and it's very unique for the fact that you do it on your own, but you have you cover a lot of ground and cover a lot of content, so it's very I would say it's very brave of you to do, because starting out I did the same thing. I was pretty much by myself when I first started the first incarnation of the Purple Knights
Mm.
podcast, which back in 2010 was known as Paisley Radio. uh, I started out by myself and then got connected with a couple co-hosts through the years. And
Okay.
so occasionally I will be joined by co-hosts as well as panelists. But yeah, for a lot of the Paisley radio shows, I did them by myself without guests, so I could sort of empathize with how you do Amari Purple Talk. And it's no easy task. You really have to be prepared and on point. So I salute you for that, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, you're one of the inspirations too. I mean, I've listened to your show quite a few times. Also the podcast Juice and Princess Friend, and you guys kind of inspired me to jump in and you know go a year long and talk for months about my favorite artists. And
Very,
hopefully,
very
hopefully,
cool.
huh?
Very cool.
Yep. Thanks. Yep. So
Yeah.
hopefully, season three. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so season three, which will start around October, hopefully I'll do the same thing as you, have some guests on and some interviews, and
Okay, very cool.
take a step forward.
Yes, definitely. Um, and I've done the past several Purple Knights podcasts. I've done them as Zoom calls, so they're recorded, obviously to video. So I have the videos on my YouTube channel, and then of course the audio goes on blogtalkradio.com. They're my gracious podcast hosts. They allow me to host all my episodes, so I host them on there, and they go to Apple Podcasts and iTunes through Blog Talk Radio. So I'm very fortunate to have that partnership in place. But yeah, it's very interesting. We as a podcasting community, the Prince fan community, seem to be growing pretty rapidly and progressing and taking steps and just getting better and better. So I'm glad to be a part of it. Shout out to Michael Dean, podcastjuice.net, one of my
Yeah.
inspirations as well. And shout out to the guys at the former Peach and Black podcast. We know, sadly, that that's not going on anymore, but they were my other inspiration for Purple Knights. So shout out to them as well
Oh yeah.
in Australia. There you go.
Yep.
And
Nice.
so today we're going to talk about the last album released in Prince's lifetime. It's sort of bittersweet to talk about, but it's an album that deserves to be talked about, especially in light of the release of Welcome to America. But we'll get to that as we go along. Of course, we're talking about Hit and Run Phase Two, released initially to the Tidal streaming platform on December 12th, 2015, and the physical CD dropped exactly a week after Prince's passing. So we're talking April 28th, 2016 for the physical CD and the worldwide release. And Richard, I don't know if you want to talk about, um, you were saying before we started the show that you only recently got a physical copy of the album. Is that right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, because yeah, phase one I bought like the day it came out, and phase two, because of Stare, Extra Lovable, and I also remembered Revelation, which they leaked on that release party for Artificial Age.
Yep.
So just on those three songs alone, I knew I wanted it, but kind of at that time, had just gotten married, got moved into the house that we're in now. So didn't have time to get a physical copy. And then, like I said, kind of as the months went on, then came April 21st. And like I said, it's, I would see it everywhere, Amazon, I would see it in record stores, but I just never really had the strength to pick it up until recently.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely empathize with that. Um, I got it initially digitally as well because Prince in his last year or so was a big proponent of Jay-Z and a big proponent of Tidal. So he got me to sign up for Tidal. So I
Yeah, me
originally
too.
had phase one and phase two, um, thanks to Tidal. So, and then funny enough, where I originally got my first physical copy of this album was at Paisley Park on January 21st, 2016, which, as any fan worth their salt would know, is the piano and microphone gala event, basically the kickoff for the tour, the piano and microphone tour. And I got my first physical copy of Phase Two there. It was actually bought for me by a fellow fan that sat next to my father and I at Paisley Park for the first show of the gala event that we attended, and that first show was revelatory. It was mind blowing because I don't think Prince had ever been so um, revealing and so emotionally open and accessible as he was for that show. So that'll always be a memory of mine, especially associated with this album, since I got my first physical copy as a gift from a fellow fan at Paisley Park. So very special to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're talking about music that was recorded um, between 2010 and 2015, and Prince uh, slept on a lot of these songs for a minute and was waiting for the perfect home to put them on an album, the perfect sequence. And so it took a lot of years for these songs to finally appear on a proper album. But of course, if you are a member of any of Prince's online sites, specifically thirdeyegirl.com, uh, 2013, Prince 2013, if you were a member of any of
Mm.
those sites, you knew about these songs years in advance of this album. So it was kind of old hat a little bit by the time we got a lot of these tracks on an official album, but it's still very gratifying to know that Prince found an official place for these tracks because they're all very good and they all flow together really, really well.
Mm.
Richard, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, Chris. I know for me, hearing it back during digital, and then just listening to it over the last week or so. Um, to me, it felt more like a playlist at first than it did an actual album because of what you said about the songs kind of sitting around since 2013. I remember buying the download of Screwdriver, buying that.
Yep.
Extra Lovable. There was another one. That one I bought from like Apple Music when it dropped. I guess one of the earlier versions of it. This one's different. But it felt like a playlist. And just listening to it recently, um, with the exception of Extra Lovable and Stare, everything else sounds like an album. It does sound like an album to me. And I wish it was something that either whether it was the title of the album itself, like if it had a different title, if there was more marketing and promotion behind it. I think this would have been a very strong album for Prince during that time.
Right.
Because I know he
Right.
was dealing exclusively with title.
Right. Well, that's something we can talk about, and something that you've talked about at length on your podcast too. Is the promotion or lack thereof for Prince's albums, especially in the later years. Um,
Mm,
you know, good promotion was hard to come by for a lot of Prince's later albums, and it's really a shame because, as you said, with better promotion and a more visibility, this album could have been uh, if not a huge hit, it could have been really special, a really special milestone in Prince's career. Um,
mm.
but so it's a shame it wasn't promoted better. But with that, we can get into the album proper. Uh, the first track, Baltimore, a very um, timely track for the time it came out,
Mm.
and still sadly timely today with the whole George Floyd tragedy and all that. Um, of course, best known as one of Prince's best latter day political songs. And Richard, I don't know if you want to start us out with the commentary on Baltimore. What do you think of the track?
That was one. Yeah, I bought that on Apple Music, and probably hadn't heard it until I purchased it. Like you said, timely lyrics, speaks directly to what was going on with Freddie Gray in Baltimore at that time. And I don't know, I think a lot of people, when they think of political songs, you can easily go back to what's going on. You can easily go back to Curtis Mayfield. And, a lot of those songs kind of had more of like a punch to it, where Prince, especially with this and with Welcome to America, it's a very peaceful energy. The words are powerful, the lyrics are powerful, but there's a very peaceful energy that allows you to sit back and just embrace the lyrics of it and meditate on the lyrics of it. So I think that was clever instead of, where, yeah, Public Enemy's Fight the Power was effective or NWA was effective. But sometimes you kind of lose the real meaning for the heavy funk that's on it. So with the peaceful vibe of this, Welcome to America, and a lot of the songs on that album, you get to reflect and really pay attention to the lyrics.
Right, right. And it's very, yeah, Prince was very much about, you know, keeping peace and trying to promote, nonviolence. I think of the, you know, the connection to, the message of someone like Dr. King, or in later years Malcolm X,
Mhm.
who advocated for nonviolence. I really I really get what you're saying, Richard, about the peaceful vibe of it. but uh, it's very powerful lyrically and musically as well. It's got a great soaring guitar solo in there.
Yeah.
And I think back in the day, one of the reviewers that first heard it at Paisley Park said that the guitar solo made them cry. I don't know. I don't know if I'd go that far. There are plenty other more impactful guitar solos in Prince's career than Baltimore, but it's a nice little guitar solo,
Mm-hmm.
and then certainly impactful. And then you've got the horn arrangements from String Genius, I believe, is who he was working with at this time. Uh, horn horn group out of Minneapolis. Um, but yeah, great horns, great guitar solo in there,
Mm-hmm.
and musically just a very chill, uh, upbeat, vibe. Um, very good song, and I would say a very good way to open the album. I mean, it gets your attention, and that's what opening tracks really should do on albums is get your attention and grab you and
Mm-hmm.
take you along for the ride. And Baltimore certainly does that. So I would say, yeah, a very strong album opener and a good way to kick things off. Would you agree with that, Richard?
Oh, I agree. Lately we've been exposed to Dwayne Tudhall's book, the second volume about the Parade Sign of the Time sessions.
Yep.
And I think we're coming to appreciate his attention to sequencing on an album. And something, even if when I was involved with music, yeah, I'm kind of conscious of it and how that process is important. But just recently reading about that, yeah, you really appreciate the way he would just play songs on an album.
Right.
And I think in this case, like I said, where at first it sounded like more of a playlist than an album, now I can appreciate, yeah, that was a great way to lead off the album with that track. It was the most recent, and that energy was still going on at that time. So for people that hadn't heard the track already, yeah, that was a great way to get more people involved with it.
Yeah. And then we go to track number two, which is a track that dates to 2012, I believe. It came out as a single in 2012. Rock and Roll Love Affair. And this is actually the one of the longer versions of the track with a
Hmm.
with a nice extended bridge in the song. And I appreciate having the longer version uh, on the album because with Prince, uh, there are some exceptions, but normally, as a rule, the longer versions are superior to the shorter single versions. And I would say with Rock and Roll Love Affair, uh, that's certainly the case. So I'm glad to have the longer version, and again, just a really cool kind of jazzy type vibe
Hmm.
to it. Uh, uh, a story about you know uh, lovers finding each other, and it's been rumored that this song addresses the potential relationship between Prince and his protege Andy Allo. But of course,
Oh,
we don't want to get too far into rumors and gossip on here because
uh,
that could turn that could turn ugly
oh
if we
yeah,
let it. But I just want to
yeah,
say shout out to Andy. Uh, we love her. Um, she's awesome.
yes.
Um, and if she did inspire this song, good on her is all I can say. Of course, we got the lyrical connection to the song "When Stars Collide" from her Superconductor album. So that's where the speculation comes from. But I'll leave it at that. But yeah, great song. Um, flows well um, behind Baltimore. They both sort of got this jazzy type vibe to them.
Mm.
So they work together. They work good together back to back. And I just like the story of two people finding each other, needing each other for various reasons, and the imagery of the yellow sun rising on their bodies in bed, two people in love with nothing but the road ahead. It's a very the image is very striking, and it almost plays out like a movie in my head when I listen to it. But Richard, what are your thoughts on Rock and Roll Love Affair?
Chris, let's see. That one, I really struggled with it. I caught about it when it dropped. I think that was one that was on the Third Eye Girl site. If not,
Yes.
I probably got it from like Apple Music, one of the two.
Yep.
And I struggled with it. Like I tried to find things to like about it then. Um, I remember the video coming out and still struggling with wanting to like this song. I have a better appreciation of it now, like you said, because of the longer version. I do like the longer version of it, and I don't know. Yeah, it is a proper flow coming right off of Baltimore. But yeah, I think I enjoyed this version of it better than the earlier single version for it. And like you said, the lyrics, very poetic, very romantic lyrics. But I don't know. I didn't know the story about that being about Andy Allo, so that was an eye opener too. So I'm gonna give that track another listen, and on my own time, kind of find out what the real story behind it was.
Find out what's up. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Find
Yep.
out what's up. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, great track. Great second track flowing out of Baltimore. And then we've got let's see, what have we got? Let me look at the track list here. We've got Too Young to Dare, which kind of breaks the typical Prince pattern in terms of having the third track. Usually the third track is a ballad on a Prince record, but this is an upbeat track. Uh, Again, an older track. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure what year this originates from. I want to say 2013, but it might even be prior to that. Uh, Richard, what are your thoughts on Too Young to Dare?
That to me now sounds like it belongs on Welcome to America. It has that vibe. Um, I don't think the same musicians are on it, but the feel of that song, it feels like it belongs on that. Or, maybe a deluxe version of 2010. I think probably a better fit for that than Welcome to America.
Yep,
But
yep,
yeah, I think that was the thing with playlists. The playlist vibe of it. To me, at first the songs could have gone anywhere. Like Too Young to Dare could have gone on 2010. Baltimore could have easily fit onto Welcome to America. But in the context of this album, yeah, it's a different vibe than what we're used to with Prince albums. But I don't know. I don't think it messes with the sequencing a little bit. Again, it has that. It's not a heavy funk number, but it's a great mid-tempo number that works. I think with the flow of the album.
yep, yep.
I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong.
And again, there's speculation like who could this be about? Obviously it's about a younger female, but I don't want to get too heavy into it, but
Yeah,
like the lyric
maybe.
like the lyrics say, she's old enough to do you, but too young to dare. So you know, make of that what you will. But
Yeah,
yeah, Nice little funk number. I really like it. I like the horns on the track, which Richard, like you were saying about maybe about Welcome to America, the horns and the upbeat version, the upbeat tempo of it is kind of like a throwback to 70s soul, which is
Mm,
pretty much what Welcome to America is all about. Like you said with the Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye type vibe to that record. But yeah, um, good song. And I remember um, back, it might have been several years before. Well, I don't know because Prince only started interacting with fans the last couple of years, so it might have been later than what I'm thinking. But on Twitter, I remember uh, tweeting Prince around the time that Hit and One Phase One was set to come out. I remember tweeting him about specifically about Too Young to Dare because it was one of those tracks that was rumored to exist, but very few people had heard it. I think it was played at a party at Paisley Park or either Paisley or Dakota Jazz Club, and
okay.
people had a few people had heard it there and talked about it on the fan communities. Prince.org, I think, is where they talked about it. But yeah, so I knew of the song in advance of it coming out, and it was one that I really wanted to hear based on the title alone. So I remember tweeting Prince about it, asking him when it was going to come out or if he was going to put it out
Uh,
on the Third Eye Girl site. Um, and that was one of the tweets that he ignored me on, but he actually replied to several of my other tweets that year, which is very, very, very cool, but
mm,
very good memories to have. But yeah,
yeah.
Too Young to Dare, it's a good, like you say, Richard, a good mid tempo funk number. And it's really a good way to, now that I think about it, in sequence on the album, it's a good way to, keep the energy up, keep the energy going. So I appreciate it in sequence the way it is. And then next we have the slow jam. So he kind of reversed the pattern a little bit. The third
Mm,
track was more up tempo, and the fourth track is more of a chill track. It's not a ballad, but it's more of a chill track. Again with a jazzy vibe. So I really like this, and it's called "Look at Me, Look at You." And I don't know when I hear this song, I just get lost in the vibe of it. It's very very chill and very very relaxing, and again very romantic.
mm,
Sort of makes me think of those. The again, it's not a ballad, but it makes me think of those classic Prince ballads where he's talking to the woman and basically telling her the effect that he's having on him or she's having on him,
mm,
and so it makes me think of that. But I really like the song. The flute on the song is really cool. Again, it goes back to like a 1970s R&B vibe for me. Um, I'm not really experienced in that era of music, so Richard can speak to it better than I can. But
yeah.
yeah, but I really really love the chill vibe and Prince's vocals and how he sort of plays with his voice and goes into falsetto and into his head voice and back and forth. It's
Mm,
really really cool. Um, and again, one of those songs where, as I listen to the lyrics, it sort of plays out like a movie in my head. So it's a um, very visual, storytelling lyrics in that way for me. Richard, what are your thoughts on "Look at Me, Look at You"?
Chris, I love this song. Um, Again, yeah, the 70s vibe. And I think what's great about Prince during this era, even though we talked about the lack of promotion and everything, the plus side of it is that, yeah, it takes you back to a time where not too many people did videos. They weren't called videos in the 70s, they were more like promo films or something. And very few artists did it. And back then, all you had was the vinyl and you had radio. And look at me, look at you. It takes me back to, I want to say like more so 75, 76,
Yep.
and AM, FM radio. Um, uh, I can't really think of an artist to compare it to, but that's sort of, yeah, like adult contemporary FM vibe of, say, I don't know, maybe Fleetwood Mac or Steely Dan,
Yeah.
some Doobie Brothers. Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, just that peaceful vibe. It doesn't overwhelm you. And the flutes, yeah, very 70s. Lots of flutes in the 70s, especially early
Yep.
70s. And
Yep.
yeah, I just love I guess we'll get into like the engineering of the album and stuff later. But this is one of the prime examples of just, to me, how well engineered the tracks on this album are. Because I was kind of critical for a lot of Prince releases, kind of like late 90s, early 2000s. Because not because the songs weren't great, but some of the production was sometimes too clean, or it just kind of it lacked a certain warmth that could have made it better.
Yep.
But when you got to, this phase two, phase one, artificial age, maybe 2010, probably. Yeah, to me, I think he took a closer look and started surrounding himself with engineers to kind of up the game on the final product with a lot of these tracks on it. But yeah, I definitely love "Look at Me, Look at You."
Right. Talking about, back in the day, the radio, uh, FM radio. Um, I'm a relative young pup as far as my placement in the old school Prince fandom because I was actually born in 1980, so I'm a dirty mind baby. But yeah, but in a lot of ways I remember the early 80s music and whole vibe better than I do my teenage years in the mid 90s. So
Mm,
and I really miss the way radio was and just how relevant it was to the music industry as a whole. And I just wish the music industry could go back to being the way it was. But that's just me being an old grumpy guy. But I guess I'm 41, so it's not that old. But I feel like an old soul in a lot of respects because I really appreciate back in the day, like you say, FM radio and adult contemporary and all that stuff, and vinyl. I know vinyl's been making a comeback for the past several years, which I'm grateful to see because I
yeah,
can remember, being very very little in the early and mid '80s and listening to records all the time. When I was
yes,
in the single digits. So yeah, but I miss those days. I have a lot of nostalgia for those days, and a song like this one definitely uh, brings you back to that time. And as I was hearing you speaking, Richard, I was reminded of the lyric from Musicology where Prince says, "Don't you miss the feeling music gave you back in the day?"
Yeah.
And yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about here with this track. But yeah, the great four opening tracks thus far, and the album really flows well. Um, so, and then we have the funk jam, the obligatory funk jam that's got to be on every Prince album, and in this album it's Stare. So yeah, I just want to say when Prince dropped Stare originally, I believe he dropped it on YouTube at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning or something like
Oh
that.
wow.
And that was back in the day when my sleep schedule was totally turned around and turned upside down. So I'm a I'm a night owl usually. So, and especially back then, my sleep schedule was way out of whack. So I was actually awake, you know, when when this dropped at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I remember being so excited because um, one of the visuals on the on the on the video for the track was a brief shot of the image for "Free Yourself," and immediately I remember that started speculation that the new album from Prince or the next album from Prince was going to be titled "Free Yourself." And I just remembered the video saying something to the effect of "new funk from Prince coming," and Stare was part of that whole vibe. So we were thinking that an album
Wow.
titled "Free Yourself" was going to come, and Stare was going to be included on that. Of course, it ended up being Hit and Run Phase One, which was a very different vibe to tracks like Stare and stuff like that. But yeah, I love this track. Of course, you know, Prince in typical Prince fashion, you know, he always talks about the only competition. My only competition was me in the past,
Hmm.
and so we've got the throwback to Kiss, and we've got throwback, I believe, to "Sexy Dancer." Is this the song I'm thinking of? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It has that. Yes, it has that feel to it.
So we've got the two throwbacks to you know Kiss and "Sexy Dancer," and so he's pretty much calling back to himself, which is a total icon legend move. So
Hmm.
that's what you do when you've got too many hits. But yeah, I love this song. Super funky. The bass is
Oh
unreal
yeah.
on
Yeah.
this song.
Yes.
Um, yeah, one of the highlights of the album for me. And Richard, what are your thoughts on "Stare"?
Oh yeah. This Chris, this was one of the tracks that motivated me to at least, if nothing else, get it on digital right off the bat. Because I think I heard it was the title leak for it. And I remember there was a guy I used to work with, young guy. He was a guitar player, young guy, but he was definitely into Prince. And he was frustrated that the only way you could hear that track was on title, big time. And, so when phase two was getting ready to drop, I was like, yeah, I have to get this album. Just if nothing else for that song. And then when I found out what else was going to be on it, that was just more icing on the cake with that. But for Stare, the track Funky, love the bass line. I think he was celebrating the fact that he got his masters back, with the references to Kiss, kind of the sexy dancer vibe to it. especially that last line before it just goes into that real funky jam that fades kind of in and out at the end
Yep.
when he talks about walking into the past.
Right.
I don't know. I think he might have had a plan to do something very interesting with not only his original masters, but maybe something along the lines of the vault. Because like extra lovable, which we'll probably get into later. Um, that was totally, remixed and overdubbed. And I think he might have had a master plan to do something interesting with that. So and I
Right.
think Stare was
Because
sort of that first part.
right. Um, in the whole, the whole lead up to the album and his banner that he had on his Twitter account, and it was various artwork from Martin Hammond, who is a British artist that ended up doing the cover artwork for Phase One and Phase Two. And if you look at his archive tweets now, it's at PRN Legacy on Twitter. You'll see on
Oh
the Twitter
yeah.
banner there's artwork, and there's the first two the artwork for the first two Phase albums are there, but there's also um, I believe um, two or three more princes, represented in the artwork, and
Oh, there's
the speculation at the time was there were going to be multiple Phase albums, Hit and Run Phase 3, 4, 5,
three. Yeah.
coming up based on the speculation of the artwork. And I believe, um, going off what Richard was just saying, Prince going into the vault and sort of reworking or remixing or updating some of the vault tracks. I know like a song like Electric Intercourse was rumored to be considered for a reworking or an update, and be rumored to be on one of the upcoming Phase albums. Of course, they never materialized beyond Phase Two, but yeah, it would have been interesting
Mm.
to see whether Prince would have sort of leaned on the vault and what was in there to to make the Phase albums a ongoing series, and we could have had Hit and Run Phase 3, 4, 5, down the road. Who knows what could have happened? But yeah, that would have been very, very
Mm.
interesting, because I know in 2014, uh, Prince, especially live, on Jimmy Kimmel, was playing, um, the Dance Electric. So it would have been interesting
I remember. Yeah, I remember that one.
if say Hit and Run Phase 3 would have had a updated version of the Dance Electric or Electric Intercourse. Um, yeah, that would have been very, very interesting to see. But yeah, um, Stare, what a great, great track. And as I'm thinking of this album sequence, I'm like, wow, this is really, really sequenced really well. And of course, in that famous speech that the Prince gave, I believe it was at the American Music Awards, when he came out in that orange suit, and he said, like books and Black
Mm.
Lives, albums still matter. So
Yeah.
yeah, you can definitely see in the sequencing, Prince was definitely 100% focused on making an entire album experience, with these tracks, and that's why it took so many years to compile this. But yeah, to go back to your earlier comment, Richard, um, even Phase One for me, seems Hit and Run Phase One seems more like a like a track list than a proper album. I mean, it seems like a companion piece or a sort of extension of Artificial Age. And I remember when Phase One came out, I actually combined the two albums and made it into a double album and resequenced everything so that it flowed differently, and just sort of made it into its own double album. So for me, Phase One is sort of an extension of Artificial Age. Um, but Phase Two, yeah, superficially, I do agree. It feels like a track list in many different respects because of the age of the songs and just being exposed to them years previously. But I gotta say, as an album, this flows really really well, and yeah, uh, great stuff. And then we have the next track is a 2011 reworking of probably my favorite bootleg, my favorite unreleased track, um, by Prince that I know of, I should say, because there's probably many, many tracks that I have no idea that even exist, but that I know of, um, as unreleased tracks. Extra Lovable, the 1983 version, is
Mm-hmm.
at the top of the list for me. And it's a shame that it probably won't come out because in this era with the concerns with the Me Too movement and all that, um, talking about rape, even if it is tongue in cheek, isn't very appropriate and wouldn't be
Yeah.
received very well. So I doubt the 83 version of Extra Lovable is going to come out anytime soon, as much as I would love it to. But yeah, this is a 2011 updated version. And again, it's very chill. And well, it's not, it's mid tempo, but compared to the 83 version, it's much more relaxed in its vibe, I would say. Um, but it's still you know mid tempo, and it's danceable.
Mhm.
It's really funky in places, especially in the end. Um, yeah, and I like this reworked version a lot. There were several versions. The first version that came out in 2011 featured a rap in the middle by Andy Allo, and I know that was very divisive to the fan community. People either loved it or they hated it, and I'm a
Yeah.
huge Andy Ello fan, so I appreciated the rap quite a bit. But I'm kind of glad that the version that was released on this album is actually the reloaded version, which is to say the version that was updated with horns, and it's just a great song all the way around. Significantly changed lyrically from the 1983 version, but still uh, one of the highlights of the album for me, and a track that I go back to quite a bit. Richard, what are your thoughts on the Phase Two version of Extra Lovable?
Chris, this one, yeah, I've had the original, I guess, reloaded version from Third Eye Girl,
Yep.
but then lost that file, that MP3 file, or whatever it was. So I was very happy to have it on this album for sure. I think it's cleaner than the original 1983 version, and I mean not just lyrically, but as far as the production, because
Right.
it's the drums are changed. I don't think you really have the Lin as prominent in the new version. You kind of have, I guess, maybe live drums or a different drum machine on top of it. Um, but yeah, it's kind of sad we probably won't see the original version of it unless they find a way to do a clever edit of it and kind
Right.
of take that part out of it and put that on a 40th, hopefully a 40th anniversary 1999 re-release special edition. Hear that,
right,
estate? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
right, right.
But yeah, but I was happy to have the reloaded version because I did like that better than the Andy Allo rap version. Um, I don't know. I was on the fence about it. It's like, yeah, I get it. She does a good job on it, but it's like, yeah, you probably could have gotten Nicki Minaj to do the rap instead, or maybe she was unavailable and settled for, I don't know. But yeah, I was always on the fence about that version. Though sometimes I liked it, sometimes I'm like, but the reloaded version, that's my go-to version with this one. So yeah, I definitely, it's one of my favorites on the track and one of my reasons for buying the album.
Definitely, definitely. And the reloaded version is great. Of course, the video clip for the reloaded version uh, leaked in recent years, and I've
Oh, I
seen the
forgot
video
about that.
clip.
Yeah.
And have you seen the video clip too, Richard?
Not recently. I remember seeing, I forget how long ago now, but yeah, it's been a couple of years or so
It's
that I've seen.
it to me it's sort of anticlimactic because we only see Prince in silhouette in the whole video, so we never actually see his face. So it's kind of a letdown in that respect, but it's cool to have a video clip of one of the best songs on the album. So
Oh yeah.
definitely one of the best tracks on the album. Um, and next we have Groovy Potential, which is one of those tracks that was released on the Third Eye Girl website, Third Eye Tunes. And when it was released on there, this is one of the tracks that sort of uh, slapped me upside the head, and I was really, really taken with it um, from the word go. So I love this song a whole lot. Richard, what do you want to say about Groovy Potential?
Yeah, that's one that I would put on. I got like a lot of CD sort of, playlist CDs that I put together over the years. And
Yep,
that track, when it comes to doing a compilation of his later material, that track always finds its way on one of those CDs
yep,
with that.
yep.
Um, yeah, to me, it's almost a throwback to his classic period, but I think the choice of instruments and the way it's produced gives it more of a freshness, so it doesn't become a cliche Prince sound. It, the song breathes a lot better to me with that, and I guess that's probably why it makes every playlist because I'll have something with some heavy funk, and then that would kind of help make the transition to some of the other ballads that would be on one of those compilations. And another great choice for Hit and Run Phase Two, also. I think
Yes,
so. It's yeah, because that's
yes,
another one that I bought on the Third Eye Girl site
yep,
too. And it was the thing having all those singles and trying to have enough of them to make it like a full CD at the time. So to include it on an official album to me was a lot better. And again, people that might have missed out on that track since the Third Eye Girl site kind of went away after a while gives the fans an opportunity to have their own version of it.
yeah. I mean, for me, this song, I hate to repeat myself, but again, it's a highlight of the album for me. I mean, musically, you've got, it's a really breezy, upbeat sort of vibe, and it's kind of a throwback to the '70s in multiple ways because um, I can't remember in any other song Prince ever using the word groovy in a song before. So it kind of puts me in that
Yeah,
mindset,
I,
60s, 70s era, and you've got the horns on there, which the horns are fantastic on this song. They take the song
yeah,
up to a whole nother level. And his vocals are just amazing. You know, he goes into those ad libs in
Mm-hmm.
falsetto, and they're just absolutely great, absolutely wonderful stuff. Uh, the finger snaps, you know, gives a special ambiance to the song, special vibe. And then you've got that little funky breakdown in the outro of the song that
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
know back when it first dropped, people were like, that part needs to be extended by several minutes because it's just such a, you know, a nice little
But
funky breakdown. But yeah, um,
yeah, because
and
it fades
again,
out, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So there might be a longer version to that. I would
yeah,
think. Yeah. Maybe we'll
yeah,
see
I
that.
hope so.
And, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, just great, great song. And I know a lot of people really connected with it that I was talking to back in the day, back when it dropped. People were losing their minds about it. So
Mm,
yeah, it's a very, very solid song and very perfect fit for this Phase Two album, which has a lot of, you know, jazz and soul elements to it. Um, great, great track.
yeah.
And then we have When She Comes, which is the first one of the first direct connections we have to the Welcome to America album. And in retrospect, looking back, we know that this is an updated version. Of course, the earlier version now released on Welcome to America, but this is an updated version. Um, Significantly changed from the Welcome to America version. Different lyrics, different instrumentation, most notably
Mm,
the addition of a what do I want to say, an accordion. That's what I was trying to get at.
yeah.
The addition of an accordion, and I would say, you know, of the two Welcome to America tracks that got reworked and put on Phase Two, I would say that this one I I like this version more than the Welcome to America version. Um, I don't know. It just sounds. I know a lot of people have lost their minds about the Welcome to America version, and you know, say that it's finally the full return of the, you know, the dirty Prince, the risque Prince on the Welcome to America version. But I don't
Mm,
know. I just I don't know why, you know, specifically I prefer this version. Um, but I do. I don't know. I don't know if it's because it's less explicit than the Welcome to America version, or you know what my reasoning is. But I just genuinely prefer this version to the Welcome to America version. But and the other track, the other Welcome to America track, I feel the opposite about, that we're going to get to further on. I love the Welcome to America version, and the 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 Hit and Run Phase Two version is more of a reprise, but we'll get there.
mm.
But yeah, When She Comes, um, and Richard, I don't know if you saw my Welcome to America review on my YouTube channel, but we unintentionally uh, skipped over When She Comes going through the track list. So we ended up circling back and addressing that track at the end of the
Mhm.
podcast. And I sort of made a joke about delayed gratification about that song. And but it was funny, but we got to it. But yeah, When She Comes, yeah, kind of a, you know, it's kind of a slower track, you know, kind of a you know, just a way to slow down the album a little bit and
Mhm.
chill out the vibe just a little bit before ramping it back up. But yeah, um, typical, you know, Prince ballad, great falsetto. Um, very, the tenderness and emotion in his voice is very typical Prince, and I don't know how somebody can not like this song, either version of it. They're both great. And Richard, what are your thoughts on When She Comes?
Listen, this one, on my review of it, I think I might have unfairly preferred the original version to this one.
Okay.
Only because of the elements that I was hearing, because I was playing it the vinyl. I've got the super deluxe version
Yep.
of it, so I have both the vinyl and the CD
Yep.
of it, and I've listened to it on streaming too. But when I played it on vinyl, it wasn't so much as the lyrics, as far as the dirtiness versus the romanticism of the Phase Two version,
Right.
but it was what I was hearing in as far as the production of it.
Right.
And with this, the original version, I heard a lot of Al Green,
Yep.
a
Yep.
lot of Aretha Franklin, kind of her Atlantic period.
Oh yeah.
With
Yeah.
never, the Never Loved a Man period.
Yep.
And so I liked it on that element. But paying closer attention, and I guess having the CD, having a physical copy of this helps. Um, when I was hearing the accordions, it's like, yeah, it has a country vibe to it with the accordion. But again, that's it. To me, this is more Al Green than the original version
Right.
to it.
Right.
Like I said, I think I compared the original to when Al Green does covers of For the Good Times. What's the other one? There's another cover. I think Chris Christopherson. I think he's covered that. Also the Bee Gees. How Can You Mend a Broken Heart?
Oh
Those
yep.
covers of Al Green. Yeah.
Yep.
The Phase Two version has more elements of those songs or that era, and I think that was what he was trying to convey. And then to put the more romantic lyrics on top of that really sells the song. I know I tell my wife all the time about how older singers like Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis, Dean Martin, their gift was in telling a story with the song, which I think it's an art that's lost among a lot of singers today, where you have a song with a good set of lyrics like that. And even if you've never been able to experience those emotions, a really great singer can interpret those lyrics and make you feel like they felt it, or make you feel like they know what you've been going through in that song. And to me, this wins hands down with Prince's vocals selling the lyrics to this song.
Definitely. Definitely. And you just articulated why I prefer this version. I didn't even realize it before you said it, but yeah, it's more, even more of a soul vibe than the Welcome to America version. But yeah, uh,
Yeah.
great song, and you've always got to have a ballad on a Prince album, and this one is
Oh
definitely a
yeah.
good one.
Oh yeah. We haven't gotten to the other one yet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But then we've got Screwdriver, which I would say, and I said this on Twitter, and I know you probably saw it, Richard, what I said, but I said it's always felt weird to me that this song is on this album, and I know it's a Prince solo production. He plays everything on it, I believe, at least on this version. I know Ida Nielsen uh, revealed to me on Twitter that they did a version with her on bass and I believe John Blackwell Jr. on drums, and Prince was playing everything else. But I believe on this released version, I believe it's Prince on all instruments and vocals.
Mm,
Um, but it was initially marketed in 2013 as a
mm,
as the signature song for the Third Eye Girl group. So I always picture it in my mind's eye as Third Eye Girl's signature song. So to
mm,
have it on a Prince solo record, to have it on Phase Two rather than on Plectrum Electrum is a little jarring to me. But yeah, I love the song. It's not very deep, you know. It's about life on the road and sharing stories and just having fun. And it's about his connection with the fans. He
mm,
says, "I'm your driver and you're my screw." Basically, you're the thing that keeps me going. You're the thing that keeps my career going and my momentum. And so it's a love letter to the fans, but it's also about life on the road as a touring musician. And
mm,
I really, really like the song. It's really high energy, uh, great, great guitar solo in there. Um, Prince absolutely is on fire. He absolutely shreds on this song. The drums are really, really good. The bass is good.
mm,
It's just a really, really good song. And I think a lot of people overlook it or sort of see it as filler. At least the people that I've talked to kind of overlook it as sort of a novelty song. But I don't know. I've always really loved it. And the live version, the live video with Third Eye Girl that was available to download on the website is one of my favorite videos that Prince put out in his lifetime. And yeah, just a great, great song for me. And like I say, just out of place and maybe one of the only flaws, if I could even call it a flaw, on the album because it just doesn't fit with the album. It's like I sort of equate it to having When Two Are in Love on the Black album. It just doesn't fit
yeah.
for me. But as a song, it's great. I love it. And Richard, what are your thoughts on Screwdriver?
Yeah, I agree, Chris. I think it's kind of sort of the odd song or odd song choice for the album. Yeah, this was another one I had with the Third Eye Girl website, and I don't. To me, I thought it was refreshing. It seems like he was competing with what was going on um, with radio at the time. I don't know. Kind of, it's that sort of poppy rock. It's got the guitars. But listening to the physical copy of it, I kind of hear more elements to where he's kind of taking on taking on Lenny Kravitz a little bit too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's that sort of it reminds me. What's the Lenny Kravitz song?
Are you gonna go my way?
No, not that one. It's a later one. It's Where Are We Running?
Oh, okay.
In fact, you know what? Yeah, I think it is just his attempt to do a better song than that one because
Okay.
if you
Yep.
remember, yeah, remember that video. Um, it's Lenny Kravitz, and he's running all over the place. He's on tour. He's getting off of a plane. Paparazzi's chasing him. He's in the limo in the video and stuff too. And then there's the hook in his song where they kind of do the background. It's that ooh wee ooh wee ooh, and it's very buried on Prince's on Screwdriver.
Yep.
That background, yeah. So I think he's kind of taking a bit of a like a swipe at Lenny Kravitz, a little friendly competition. Like I can do a song like that too.
Wow. Now you've given me the idea to listen to those two tracks back to back. I'll definitely do that after the podcast. But yeah. Um.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, you have the CD. you can hear those elements a little bit better because I've, hearing it from the MP3 or hearing it on streaming, I never picked up on it until probably just a couple of nights ago. And I was like, he's taking on Lenny with that one.
Very cool. It's interesting how Prince, as an artist, was fueled by the people around him and his sort of contemporaries, and even the story about Welcome to America, the Welcome to America album with the track Born to Die, which coincidentally was recorded on my 30th birthday on March 12th, 2010. So that's
Wow.
a cool little factoid. But uh, yeah, but he was inspired to record Born to Die, um, based off of a comment by Dr. Cornel West that said Prince is good, but he isn't no Curtis Mayfield. So Prince was sort of inspired by that or challenged by that, to take the challenge to record a Curtis Mayfield esque track in Born to Die. So it's kind of the same thing like you're saying with Lenny Kravitz. He kind of got fueled by that and sort of, said to himself, I can make a track just as good or better than Lenny can. So
Hmm.
it's really interesting how he's inspired by others like that and how it influences influences music. But
Yeah,
yeah,
they have some stuff in the vault. Hopefully, we'll see. You get to hear that one day.
yes, they do. And then I always think of Prince and Lenny, I think immediately of the performance on the Raven to the Year 2000 DVD when they did
Hmm.
American Woman together, and that was absolute fire. So if if
Yeah,
if there's anything like that in the vault, I definitely want to hear it.
hmm,
Prince Estate, wink, wink, nudge, nudge,
yeah.
as we say. Uh, but yeah, that's Screwdriver. And next we have Black Muse, which is actually includes what we now know in retrospect to be a reprise of A Thousand Light Years from Here. But Black Muse as a track, even including 1,000 Light Years from Here, is one of the highlights of the album for me.
Yeah.
And I believe Black Muse is one of the oldest. I'm just looking up on Prince Vault, and yes, it dates from October October or January 2010 actually. So it's kind of around the
Hmm.
same time that the Welcome to America um, material was being worked on. But um, again,
Yeah.
very important track in terms of societal commentary and just talking about the African American experience in this country. A very impactful track, and my co-host for my Welcome to America review, Kurt Hoffman of the Purple Kurt podcast, uh, said that this track could very easily fit on Welcome to America, and I agree with that because it's very timely, and the lyrics are very deep and very impactful, and they fit the theme of that album perfectly. But on this album, it works very well as well. And like I say, it's personally one of the highlights for me. Um, and it's one of those tracks, along with a track like A Thousand Light Years from Here, that really makes me think and really, you know, puts me all up in my feelings about, how humanity as a whole is treated and how we treat each other, how we
Yeah.
view each other, the equity in society, being out of balance. And it's like it's one of those tracks that really inspires me to really think about my fellow man and think about the people around me and how what I could possibly do, how I could do my part to um, make their lives better and easier. And I've always been a proponent of, you know, uh, equity and justice for everyone. And this song definitely um, reinforces that feeling within me, and that's why it's one of the highlights for me of the album. But Richard, what do you want to say on Black Muse?
Yeah, Chris. Yeah, this is one of the strongest songs on the album, and I think with the placement of this, and then probably the next song that we'll discuss, you have that flow where it's just a momentum builder. So starting with Baltimore, then going into Stare, it just builds. And even though you've had the odd track or the ballad here and there, once you kind of go through that journey, sort of the peaks and valleys of the sonic experience on that, once you hit to Black Muse, then yeah, you're taken to an entirely different level with that. I mean, there's so much I could say about this track. Um, the lyrics definitely. Now what we know is, the 10,000 light years from here, the inclusion of that or the reprise of that. Yeah, this could have easily gone on Welcome to America. I can see it again where it's placed on this album. I can also see it placed on Welcome to America in the same place. One of the nuances that I picked up just on the CD that I didn't catch on streaming was how heavily of a Stevie Wonder influence is in that track. There's a keyboard, like bass keyboard, that if Stevie Wonder isn't uncredited on this album playing it, then Prince definitely does a good job at finding the right patch to get that sound. And he's been around Stevie enough to pick up what Stevie does and just kind of build on it with this track. But it automatically took me back to Songs in the Key of Life. Just with the type of keyboards that Stevie was using in that period. What else is in there? There's also Heat Wave. There's elements of Groove Line in it. So it kind of puts you in that feel good mode, like you said about musicology, the feeling that music gave you back in the day. But on top of that, he's giving you something to think about or something to feel on top of that to hopefully inspire all of us to, live our lives better and make a difference in other, people's lives as well. But yeah, definitely if you listen to the CD, there's that sort of bass keyboard underneath, and especially when it gets to the sort of 10,000 light years from here and where they kind of jams towards the end, you feel that, and automatically, like I said, you're back into Inner Visions, and you're back into Talking Book, and you're back into Songs in the Key of Life, just right there. And those are the things that I think he championed as far as let's bring those elements of music back because of all the negativity that's going on in the world, whether it's violence in the streets, whether it's the ill effects of reality shows, contemporary music of today, while people were taking sort of that element of the funk out of it, Prince was one of those putting that element of the funk back into it.
Right.
So yeah, to me, this is definitely, I would say, now, yeah, one of my top 3 favorites on this album.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And shout out to the background singers, Elisa Fiorillo, Liv Warfield,
Mhm.
and Shelby J. Shelby J is a friend of mine. I've encountered her in person a couple times, and she's just been an absolute sweetheart. And I gotta say, whenever Prince did live versions of Black Muse, Shelby J's contributions were wonderful, and she really did well with the song and on the song. So shout out to Shelby J and Liv and Elisa as well. Uh, you ladies are
Yeah.
awesome. Um, I don't know. Are they officially credited on this
Yeah,
album?
they are. Yes.
Yes,
There's
they are. Yep, the three of them I see on Prince Vault right now that they're credited on this track. So wonderful. And do we want to talk separately about the reprise of A Thousand Light Years from Here? Because um, I'll just say that for those of you that haven't seen my review of the Welcome to America album, first of all, please go watch it because it was great fun and it really helped me appreciate the album even more than I already did. But A Thousand Light Years from Here is definitely my, far and away my favorite track on the album. Uh, it's just so completely moving, and it's to me, it's like a spiritual experience listening to it because I don't know, I can't say enough about it. It's great, and knowing that this is sort of a reprise of that version is very very interesting, and it's fascinating to me how Prince does callbacks to his own music, like we were talking earlier with Stare about the callback to Sexy Dancer and Kiss, and now
Mhm.
we know that this is a callback to an earlier song, but it fits so well with the meaning and the intention of Black Muse as a song. It fits well as a coda to Black Muse. So I really really love this version, but I especially love and appreciate the fact that there's a completely separate version out there that's a whole entire song in and of itself. And yeah, A Thousand Light Years from Here is definitely one of the highlights of not only Prince's later career, but I would say Prince's entire career as a whole. It's way up there for me. It's
Mhm.
a definite highlight. But Richard, do you have any comments about A Thousand Light Years from Here?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's my favorite on Welcome to America also. And again, it's a testament to his musical genius. When we listen to say the 1999 special edition, the Sign of the Times special edition, where you have all these vault tracks, and there are a number of tracks on both of those that you see the genius kind of evolving, where there'll be a vault track that has elements of three or four different songs. I don't think that there's an artist where I've heard their vault stuff to where they've been able to do that. They may have like a version of a song with just totally different lyrics, but then they change the lyrics. But then it's just contained with that one song. There's the alternate lyrics, then there's the officially released version of it.
Right.
And with Prince, like I said, you get something like A Thousand Light Years from Here, and then down the line you get Black Muse, which incorporated elements of the previous song, but yet it's a different song. Or even Get Off, the different versions of that. Get Off, Violet the Organ Grinder, Gangster Glam, what's the other? New Power Generation.
Yep.
Was it Love Left, Love Right? There's
Yep.
so many examples of where he can just shift gears and create an entirely different piece that sounds like the other piece, but it really doesn't sound like the other
Right.
songs at all.
Right.
So yeah,
It's
yeah. I mean, that's just amazing. Like I said, I can't think of anybody Frank Zappa, anybody. I can't think of anybody that's been able to do that.
Yeah, it's fascinating to be able to see those, to be able to look and see the evolution of the creative process and the different forms that the music takes, and like like you say, the whole process of transforming ideas and concepts over several different iterations of a song. It's just fascinating to be able to see that documented, and I really give props to the estate. The estate gets a lot of grief from people, but I really give props to the Prince estate for allowing us to
Yeah.
see parts of that creative process where he can transform songs almost, at will. And it's just fascinating stuff. But yeah, this is one example of it. Yeah, it's the same song, but it's it's not the same song either, like you were saying, Richard. But yeah, great song. And we're coming into the home stretch of the album now, and yeah, let me go back to the track list. Yeah, we've only got two more songs left, and the next song is one of my favorites. And I think if Prince would have lived longer to see this played live, I think one of my one of my biggest wishes, my biggest unfulfilled wishes, would be to see this next song performed live in concert, because it would have been one of those jaw dropping moments. And I'm talking about the song Revelation, um, one of Prince's best slow jams of not only his later career, but I would say his career as a whole. I would say
Yeah.
it's up there for me in terms of his slow jams. But Richard, what do you think about Revelation?
Chris, I'm going to try to get through this without, either being too deep or too emotional. But the fact that for now, unless there's something else that's in the vault that we have yet to hear, it hit me the other night that this is the last, absolute last great ballad that, we'll ever hear Prince do.
Yeah,
Um, I was trying to put together a few notes for today, and when it got to this song, not only is it that revelation, but just how he was able to effortlessly blend so much of not only his ballad history, because I mean, there's elements of Madhouse's Eight that's in it.
yep,
We were talking about guitar solos earlier. To me, this was the most powerful guitar solo because it, as a ballad, it calls back to the Scandalous Sex Suite.
yep,
Um, but in tone, it's the same tone of, is it Hard Rock Lover, which which is, it's a weird song for me now because for some reason, before April 21st, I would say anywhere between maybe December and that April, in my car, Hard Rock Lover was just, it would, whenever I would put that CD in, I would play that and it would just, for some reason, weird reason, it would just haunt me. Like, I love that song deeply. And I think it was just on that level, or I thought like I'm just feeling this song because I love that song.
right.
But it, for some reason, it just kept nagging and pulling at me. And then now hearing this, and then I can make that connection. Like I said, and tonal wise, it's the same. I guess he's using the same pedals, the same guitar with the same pickups. engineered the guitars to sound the same. But there's that in that song also. And it's to me, I measure, since Adore, I always used to measure Prince's ballads. Like if it doesn't measure up to Adore, then it's not a Prince ballad. This one stands up to Adore, any day, anytime. And again, listening to the CD, what I noticed at the end when he kind of does that, spoken word part about the Pharaoh's hand,
Yep.
there's a string part, and I'm like, God, that sounds so familiar. Where have I heard that string part before? And it hit me. It's the same string arrangement as Alexander O'Neal's Sunshine.
Okay.
That's in there too. And and I don't think it's a thing of where he was putting down Jam and Lewis or anything like that. I just think that was, to me, maybe a subconscious acknowledgement to that, because Sunshine, it is a great ballad. And like I said, the string arrangements, they're similar, but I mean, there's only so many notes any human being can utilize for a
Right.
song anyway. But having all of those elements, the Sunshine, Scandalous, Eight, Adore, and even with the lyrics, very esoteric but romantic lyrics at the same time. All of that blended in. And like I said, unless there's something else that's in the vault that was done later, to think that this is, the last official Prince ballad, like I said, it's heavy. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it at this point, even after all these years later. And this was one of the tracks that was leaked at the Artificial Age listening party that was on YouTube.
Right.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking there has to be more. But then I don't know if I want to hear the last great Prince ballad if this isn't it.
Right.
I don't think I'm ready for that yet.
Right.
But yeah, so that being said, this is probably, among, again, my top three favorite tracks on Hit and Run Phase Two.
Definitely. Definitely. And just going to your thoughts about incorporating, the best of all those ballads and the sound of it, and it's quintessential Prince, basically. Um, and I think of a track like this, and I think of also a track like you say, like Hard Rock Lover, or like June, or Way Back Home.
Yeah,
Tracks
June.
tracks like these are when I listen to them, they transport me. It's almost like an out of body experience listening to those tracks, and I don't know what it is about you know Prince's later years, but songs like that are they're so otherworldly, and they just take you on a mental and spiritual journey listening to them. And the the unique soundscapes, what he was able to create, are just you know um it's almost like they're from another planet. That sounds a little cliche, but I mean really listening to a song like
Mm,
Revelation, and like I say, like a song like Hard Rock Lover, um ethereal is the best word that I could use to explain it. It's like floating on clouds in a way. um
yeah,
it's just the way the music hits me and affects me, and Way Back Home as well. I don't know if
yeah,
I mentioned that in there, but just songs like that. Um, they just seem to resonate at a different frequency, and it's just incredible to hear something like that. And like you say, the emotional aspect of it being the last true great Prince ballad is bittersweet, but it's like listening to it, it's just so,
It's
to me, it's so transcendent and
yes,
so incredible. But it's like if you had to script, Prince's last great ballad, I mean, I don't think it could be scripted better than Revelation. I really don't. Um, what can I say? I mean, I'm
yeah.
kind of at a loss
I
for words about it, but I mean, it's just,
well, that's a
yeah,
yeah. I was gonna say I don't want to get too macabre about it, but it's 2016. That was such a heavy year, and I mean we were losing a lot of the greats right and left. It was like it seemed like every other day or every week, we were losing somebody prominent. It's like that line in Indiana Jones where the guy tells Indy it's like it's a point to where God stops giving us things and starts taking them away.
right,
And not first, first it was Natalie Cole, but then right after that, the next week it was David Bowie. And I think with Bowie, the difference being that he knew his time was finite
right,
and was able to give the fans a final something. Where with Prince, I don't think, you know, forget about whatever the conspiracy theories are. I don't think that he set out to die. He was
no,
constantly, there was sheet music on the microphone stand, still, he was
yep,
still working on stuff.
yep,
And, I think with, us in the purple or the Prince musical singularity, that, we never, even after all this time, we're still trying to wrap our heads around it, hence, oh, this is what he would have wanted. This is what he would have wanted, or the estate's doing this, or they're not doing that. It's just that I think we're all trying to sort through our feelings because we didn't get a final goodbye. We didn't get Prince in the 70s or his 90s to where we could say, oh, okay, well, we understand it's still lost, but we understand,
right,
the shocking part about him being taken out of the picture. But with that being said, with Revelation, yeah, it might be the closest that we get to a Black Star, where Bowie got to deliver a single album. Revelation, it's narrowed down to a single track almost. Or then again, there are fans that kind of look at Artificial Age as sort of being that final one with, Way Back Home. That was a powerful song that I enjoyed while he was still here. But to listen to it now in hindsight, or even the sort of the skit at the end of Clouds, it's kind of this weird thing, that, like I said, we're all just trying to wrestle with it. But I don't know, like I said, I don't want to get too heavy into it, but yeah, I think we're trying to find our way through it still. And I think maybe the message is that let's listen to these, like you say, Chris, that yeah, it's powerful. Yeah, it is the last one. But let's look at these songs, Revelation, Way Back Home. Let's enjoy the transcendence that we feel when we listen to these tracks and try to have those kind of good thoughts kind of just travel to him. Instead of, spitting negativity at one another, instead of saying, oh, this period was greater than that period. Let's just take whatever music about Prince uplifts us and let those good thoughts travel to him. Let it travel to the estate. Let it travel, amongst other fans that are having a harder time even after all these years,
Yep.
still trying to make sense of it all.
Yep. Yep. And that's a good segue into the final track of the album. And I think it's only fitting that Prince would end on a positive note on a party song. And we're talking about Big City. And I just love the vibe of it. It's upbeat, it's positive. Like I said, it's a party song.
Hmm.
And I think it's a perfect way to close out the album and to close out um, Prince's earthly career. As far as his posthumous releases go, I don't think Piano on a Microphone '83 should have been the first posthumous release, but that's for another episode. But as far as ending his career on the note that it ends on with Big City, I think it's kind of fitting to end on an upbeat party song because I think that encapsulates what Prince was all about. Having a good time, using the
Hmm.
gifts God gave you to find joy in life, and just celebrating life itself. And there's always that irony that people talk about, where Prince's first recorded song is, all of this and more. Um, I share with you for you, and then the last lyric being, "That's it." So it's kind of a full circle kind of
Yeah,
moment. But as far as the track goes, I think it's very very upbeat and very fun to listen to. Very enjoyable to listen to. Um, it's got that '70s, kind of really upbeat soul, like Stevie Wonder type feeling to me. Um, I really like the background vocals. I think that's the girls again, if I'm not mistaken. The
hmm,
three, um, they do a really good job with it. Um, and as far as the lyrical meaning, it's a little hard to decipher. I still haven't gotten to the meaning of, it's we're in the big city when I'm in your arms, and what all that means. But just vibe wise, as a vibe, the song is very very enjoyable to listen to, and I'm glad the album ends on an upbeat note. um I like the song, and I like the album as a whole, and I think even doing this podcast really revealed to me how well the album flows as a whole. And I just think it's a wonderful upbeat note to end on with Big City. So, Richard, what are your thoughts on the track?
let's see. Big City, I've always enjoyed it. Of course, sort of post 2016 when I listen to it now. Um, I would like to think that the big city, it's a metaphor for heaven. That again, listening to it now, when I go back to the interview with Mel B, where he
Yep.
says he'll celebrate the day that he dies. And again, like I said, I don't want to get too heavy, but like I said, when I listen to this track now, I think, yeah, that's it. That's him. That's what he's doing right now. He's up there, in the big city, and whether And I guess it's about, on an earthly level, appreciating where you are. It's having that heaven on earth. So whether you're in a dirty little hotel room or working on a farm somewhere, everything that you do should be heaven on earth, I think. And, and it's a happy, upbeat song. It's very Stand era Sly and the Family Stone
Yep.
to me. It's got that vibe, hot fun in the summertime. It's
Yep.
that, very pre there's a riot going on Sly. And, at that period, you can't get more positive than Stand or hot fun in the summertime, everyday people. You can't get more positive than that. Um, that sort of level of happiness too. He mentions the Polaroid, so there's that shout out to the time. All right, you Polaroids. So yeah, I think to me, that that's what he was feeling when he recorded it. That hey, I'm enjoying life. You know, I'm living my dreams, and no matter what I do, if I'm on tour, if I'm in the studio, or if he's with his woman or whatever, then yeah, he's having heaven on earth. He's and now, like I said, post 2016, yeah, he's in the big city, and yeah, I'm sure the the angels and Gabriel and whoever they're partying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
No doubt. No doubt. But yeah. So great album. Um yeah,
yeah,
it's emotional to talk about, but it was a great album to revisit for the podcast, and I'm glad we revisited it. And Richard, were there some things you wanted to say about the production of the album?
yeah. I think Chris, there's a couple of or quite a few unsung heroes in the making of this project, and it would, again, if there's something else that's in the vault that we have yet to hear, I'm going to start with Michael Nelson, who did the horn arrangements and I think a lot of the string arrangements as well. I remember an interview with him kind of around 2016, 2017, where he was talking about where Prince wanted to take the Minneapolis sound
Right.
on a whole new level, and he wanted to use Michael Nelson as the basis for, creating some unique horn arrangements. And to me, I think that is done to great effect on this project, and it would have been interesting to see or hear what was going to happen next. And then after that, we've got the engineers, of course, in addition to Prince. There's, let me see, check my notes here. So we got Dylan Dresdow, Chris James, Justin Stanley, and Booker T, who are the engineers. And I would recommend, if you still have a CD player, whether in your home or still one in your car, definitely get the CD to this album. And I hope one day we'll get a vinyl version of this also. But definitely listen to what not only the musicians were doing, but how the engineers crafted the sound on this. To me, this is one of the best late Prince era albums, to where I've just enjoyed the production and the engineering aspect of it. I mean, it is really, taking my ears on a journey with this. So yeah, definitely shout out to the engineers, shout out to Michael Nelson, shout out to all the background singers, Shelby J and Elisa Ferrillo, Liv Warfield, and Andy Allo also. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm glad I got this on CD finally after 4 or 5 years. Thank you, Chris, for having me on the show too to talk about this album. I think it's helped me dealing with the loss of the great one. Of course, it's not a loss. The music is still here with us. So,
Right.
but definitely thank you for bringing me on for this album.
Right. And to close things out, I just want to let people know where they can find you on social media and on your podcast, Amari Purple Talk. Can you let us know where we can find you on social media?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Richard Cole underscore now, and the now is in all caps. I'm also on Instagram at Richard Cole underscore Amari and Amari Purple Talk, which season 3 is going to start sometime in October. And that will be on your favorite podcast platform through the Libsyn network. And it is also on YouTube on the Amari Communications channel.
All right. So I'll have all that. I'll have all that linked in the descriptions, on the description box on YouTube, and also in the description on blogtalkradio.com. So I'll have all those links for you guys to check out. And Richard, I would like to say thank you for your support. The past few years, you've been very supportive of me on Twitter, and we've communicated back and forth, and we've
Yeah.
respected each other's views on Prince, as Prince aficionados, and I really respect your knowledge, and I respect your drive and your vision for Amari Purple Talk, and let's keep this going outside of the podcast. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
really grateful for your friendship, and thank you again for coming on. And on behalf of myself and Richard Cole, I'd like to say thank you, everybody, for watching on YouTube, listening on Blog Talk Radio and Apple Podcasts. And until next time, I'm Chris Johnson. We'll see you later, everybody. Peace.
All right. Thank you. Peace.